Hello,
Hello, I'm Cathy.
I'm Rachel and this is Lunabird Book Club.
Hi, on today's video we're going to be doing a little review of a very big book. It's Stephen King's The Stand. This is a book that I lent to Rachel to read because Rachel lent me the Wheel of Time books to read, and that's like 15 books and a lot of them are over 1,000 pages. So I looked for something for Rachel to read that was of a similar vibe, and The Stand is what I came up with.
It's not just The Stand though, it's The Stand unabridged. So that's, how many pages is it?
It's 1,400 and then some pages.
And yeah, 1,400 and change. 1,421 pages of writing.
It's a hefty book. And I've loved this book for a really, really long time. I think it's my favourite Stephen King novel. And it's Rachel's first time reading it, so we're kind of going to do another first time reader react video. And so before we get into asking Rachel what her opinions and thoughts were, I thought I'd better give a little bit of a background to what this is about. So The Stand is by Stephen King. It was first published in the 70s. It's a post-apocalyptic work of dark fantasy. It involves a plague that nearly wipes out all of humanity, and then a tremendous fight versus good and evil. There's lots of different characters to follow. There's a lot of travelling and journeying. And I once read that Stephen King kind of wrote this as his answer to The Lord of the Rings. So he kind of wanted to write an epic fantasy novel, but that was rooted in America's geography, history, and how he kind of saw the American culture and atmosphere. So yeah, that's what The Stand is. It's been a very popular work since then, and this version is the unabridged version, so it includes quite a few chapters that weren't in the original one but have since been added back in. Okay, so now that we've introduced the book, we're going to find out what Rachel made of it as a first time reader. We will be talking about everything that happens in this book, so spoiler warning is in effect. And I guess my first question is, what was your reading experience like?
Well, it was longer than I anticipated it would be. I imagine it's longer than you anticipated it would be. Cathy lent me this book in May 2022, May last year, which is when I started it. Did I start it straight away? Maybe not, I don't know. I read for a few months and then I got to a certain point. Can I say what point it was?
If you want to.
I got to a really long Trash Can Man section. I think it was I don't think that's in the original, is what you said at the time.
I think it was shorter in the original version.
So maybe I should have read the original version, because I got in the middle of this and I just thought, I just stopped reading and I didn't pick it up for maybe 6 months. And then I picked it back up again in the middle of this Trash Can Man section and thought, I have no idea what's going on. Do I start the book again? No, that's too much. Do I start this section again? I really don't want to, but it will help me understand what's going on. So I read the Trash Can Man section again.
Oh man.
And then got to the bit where everyone was in Boulder and the committee was starting, and I really liked that bit. So from then on I was just reading it and reading it and reading it, and I finished it in March of this year, March 2023.
Okay, next question. Which plotline did you find to be the most gripping?
I think maybe Nick. I liked most of them, but I think with Nick, because he experiences the world in a different way to everybody else. Obviously he can't hear and he can't speak, he can't verbally communicate. The writing just felt like a different pace to all the others. Mm-hmm. So with that standing out, I don't know, maybe it was more when we got to a Nick part, I was like, ooh, yes, this is different. Different things are happening.
We've already touched on this a little bit, but where did you find the plot dragged?
I think, obviously I didn't like the Trash Can Man bit in the middle. I don't know what it was. I think it was, I didn't mind his first section where he was blowing up the tanks, but I think because you're in his head for so long, following his journey to Las Vegas, and it's quite horrifying, the stuff that happens to him as well. So I found that really tough to get through. But on my first read, I of the Trash Can Man section. I haven't read the stand twice, just the Trash Can Man section.
It's a bit you dislike the most. Oh.
So my first read of the Trash Can Man section, I did find it a drag, but then the second time, because I kind of already knew what was happening, it was easier to read. And I think at the beginning there's a lot of build up, and I like that you're visiting everyone, every storyline's happening concurrently. But yeah, getting used to the vast array of characters. I also this is probably not going to go down well. I found where they all go to the farm and meet Mother Abigail, I just found that a bit underwhelming.
What were your 3 favourite characters?
Obviously Nick.
Good choice.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, there's so many, that's why I've asked you 3, because it's hard to pick one.
I think at the time I loved Joe, Leo.
Yeah.
I think any time in a book when there's a feral child, I'm like, yes, you belong to me now.
They're savage children. I love them.
They're just, I just want to bundle them up in my arms and protect them. And I know that Joe wasn't. He's more of like a secondary character, I suppose. Maybe Franny.
Yeah.
I
wasn't sure how you felt about Franny from how we talked about her before.
I don't remember.
You did not say much, but just a couple of times I felt like you were getting annoyed with her.
It's probably true. She was quite annoying at times. But actually, no. I take it back.
Who's beating Franny?
Who is beating Franny? I have to have a woman in there. Dana, come on. What a powerhouse.
Dana just comes in like the cool chick, doesn't she? Like, yeah. She's a good choice. She's not in it for very long, is she?
She's not, but she has a big impact, I think.
Yeah. She's got more oomph about her than Franny. But I do like Franny too.
I love Franny as well.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the time when I'm reading, I just like characters.
And who is your least favourite character?
I think I will say it feels like a bit of a cop-out because they're just an unpleasant character. But the kid, I think the kid is part of the reason why I stopped reading in the middle. Just not even like a sympathetic villain or a villain that not a villain that you can understand where they're coming from. But like some villains are interesting and I want to know about the reasons why they act. The kid was just unpleasant and felt unnecessary.
Yeah, and I'd say like in the stand you've got quite a few villains who you get to know, like Harold, Nadine. Oh, what's Flag's right hand man called? Lloyd. I know more than you.
I
knew it was going with an L. I was going for Leonard and I knew it wasn't right. Like so you've got those 3 villains that I think are quite well fleshed out.
I suppose with us though you're in their viewpoints, aren't you? Whereas the kid you're in Trashy's viewpoint and you're the victim of the kid's abuse.
And what did you make of Randall Flagg as the villain? I
know that he is in other works of Stephen King. I don't know what that means for the stand as a whole, but I think, man, I'm struggling to remember because obviously it was a long time since I read it, but he's quite creepy. But I think because we see him on both sides, I think you get a good rounded view of his character, his legend in the book. I liked him as a villain. I thought he served the narrative well, I suppose. And yeah, again, not a pleasant guy, but for a reason. He had a reason for being unpleasant.
Yeah. What is his reason for being unpleasant?
Well, world domination, whatever.
Well, yeah.
He wants to birth the Antichrist.
Yeah, that's enough of a reason, isn't it?
I'm not saying it's a good reason,
no,
but
it's a reason.
He has a reason.
Yeah, I quite like Flagg as a villain in that he's crazy. Like, he doesn't always know what he's going to do next. He has a vague idea of where he's going, but not the details, and he can change his mind in an instant. So you never quite know what's going to happen in his chapters.
Yeah, I like that.
So this next question is like a little bit tricky, and I feel a bit mean asking it. But bearing in mind that King kind of wrote this as his American version of a great epic fantasy that was kind of written to be about and for America, I guess as an English reader, did you pick up on some elements of the story that felt like they were distinctly American or about America?
I think, obviously, being a British reader in the 2020s as opposed to the 1970s, and someone who's not overly versed in America, I'm not sure. I think Larry's story is quite like his story starts with the American dream. I suppose, like, he's out there hustling, trying to make it in the world, and then he's forced to reassess where he is as a man and what his value is as a man.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah. I think Larry's journey is one of the most interesting ones in fiction ever.
Wow, bold claim.
I know, but because Larry, at the beginning of the book, he's already questioning that his values, he knows they're not right, and he spends the entire book trying to be a better man. And I think that makes him really interesting.
Yeah. Oh.
And maybe
that's sad at the end because of Larry. I mean, obviously because of the people as well, but I think being in Larry's viewpoint when the bomb comes, it's just,
yeah.
Are you in Larry's viewpoint when the bomb comes? I don't even know. Back to America.
Back to America.
I think there's obviously elements of the government and military having a fist around the future of the country. I don't know if that was Stephen's intent, but it's a military facility that released this plague on the world, and then, you know, when they get to Boulder, when they get to Boulder, Glenn sets forth what they're going to do. They use the Constitution as a basis and decide, are we going to go back to America as it was, or are we going to try and build something new going forward?
Yeah, it does really question, like, because it's so easy to look at governments and say, you can see what's wrong, but if you had a clean slate and you had to start again, what would you keep and what would you discard, and where would you begin? I think those questions are really interesting in the book.
I think with America, because it's so big, there's each state is its own country. There's so many different versions of life that people are living, and now you've got people from remnants of each different tribe coming together and trying to reconcile something that's going to work for everybody.
Yeah, it's quite ambitious.
Yeah,
I think that's another reason why I find this book fascinating and why I keep coming back to it. In some ways, like, this book is made out of like 3 distinct parts. You kind of have the plague to kick us off with, and then you've got the story of the survivors journeying to where they want to end up, and then you've got this final confrontation between good and evil. In fact, I wonder if it was written today, would it come out as a trilogy?
Maybe, yeah.
That wasn't going to be the
Milking
question.
that cash cow.
That wouldn't surprise me. Did you have a favourite section?
I did like it all. I think, looking back on it, I am grateful that I read it. I think in parts of it I was like, I'm only reading this because Cathy is making me. Not that you were making me, but there were parts where I looked at it and I thought, this is not a book that I would willingly pick off a shelf. It's just not really my genre. But I'm looking with Luna Bird Book Club. I'm looking to expand on that. And you heard me say I enjoyed it, right?
Yeah,
I would read it again.
Would you?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey.
I hope that's not answering a later question.
No.
Anyway, so obviously I read this in 2 stints. I read about half of it. So I think I was about halfway through part 2 when I dropped it, and then I picked part 2 back up again, and then read part 3. So I think my favourite even though I start halfway through it. I think my favourite section was on the border when they're getting to Boulder and building Boulder up. I found it so compelling. I was really invested in the vision that they had, and I just found it really interesting. And I did like Captain Trips Part 1, but a lot was happening, and I didn't know people. I think on a reread I would enjoy it more because I already know the characters.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was reading it in the middle, I'd become invested in the characters.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to succeed. And I enjoyed Part 3 as well, The Stand, but it was very action packed, and bad things happened.
Bad things happened. Yeah, and I think I like that section a lot because you've been following these characters on their own for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see them meet and interact and see if they're going to get along. Mm-hmm. And it's quite nice that a lot of them do.
Yeah. And I think also in the middle, you've got Harold's. He has so much potential, and he just makes a couple of wrong choices, and then boom, it's gone. So you've got all of that tension running through it as well.
Yeah. It's funny that Harold does bring so much tension in, doesn't it? Like, compared to all the big bads that you've got going on the really evil people, I find Harold is the one that gets my nerves up the most.
Yeah.
I think the scary thing is having a friend who's about to turn on you. Or that you don't... Yeah, you're just not comfortable with. Right. Next question. Which death was the most devastating?
I think probably Nick. Just because they're so close to getting out. I know. Does Susan die at that point as well?
Yeah, I think she does.
Yeah. Sorry, Susan. I only care about Nick. I don't mean that. But...
It'd be funny if she survives now. I can't quite.
It really would, wouldn't it? I think she dies. I think
Nick wasn't the only one who died.
No. But yeah. Oh, I've just cramped my hand.
Oh.
You can leave this in. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think because they nearly get out, and Nick gets that, oh my gosh, something is wrong. We've got to get out. You almost think in that moment you're like, oh my gosh, it's okay. Everyone's gonna be okay, and then boom, it doesn't happen. And I think that's the moment when the story shifts.
Yeah.
So Nick's death and Susan's death and whoever else dies death has that added emotion added onto it.
Yeah, because now nobody's safe if Nick's gone. Okay, I'll ask you a happier question. What was the most triumphant moment? Oh no.
Nothing. You know what? I've got an answer.
Okay.
I think, based on my memory of the book, probably when Tom Cullen and Stu join together on the road, so that you know that at that point you're not sure if either of them are going to make it back, but then when they get together you think, okay, no, this is going to end okay. You've got Tom's driving physical power and Stu's mind to get them there. Like, apart they're going to struggle, but together they're a great team.
Yeah. Oh, that is a really good moment. Okay, our last question. You've already said that you enjoy the book, but we've acknowledged it does have its difficulties. So, would you recommend this book to other people to read? And who is this book for?
I definitely would recommend it. I did enjoy it. I know it took me a long time to read it, but looking back on it, I did enjoy reading it. I think it is a worthwhile novel to read. Who would I recommend it for? Without knowledge of someone, I would maybe say, if you are comfortable reading 1,400 page long books, then sure, give it a go. It's got intrigue. Yeah, it's got intrigue. It's got good characters. It's got the exploration of what it means to be a human being in society. But I think if you enjoy character-driven novels, this is a good book, because I think it makes you think about your choices in that position of good versus evil, community versus selfishness. Yeah. But you have to be willing to read 1,400 pages of it.
Yeah.
Maybe get the abridged version so that you don't have to read the trash can man section.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe start on the abridged version, and if you really, really like it, go for the unabridged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that was Rachel's reaction as a first-time reader to The Stand. If you've read The Stand and would like to share your opinions with us, please comment down below. We'd love to find out what you made of it. Thanks so much for watching this. Please do like and subscribe because we're a new channel and every little bit of interaction helps us out. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Cathy.
I'm Rachel. Oh. We didn't discuss. So,
which plot was most...
Sorry, can we do that again?
Yeah.
I'm looking between you and the camera. Where do I look when you're asking me a question? Do I
know.
look at you and then look at the camera? Or do I look at the camera while you ask me?
Should we both look at the camera?
Okay. We both cleared out at the same time.
We're cute.
We are cute. We're so in sync. Okay, cool.
Should we just start again?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea, isn't it?